Is there anybody out there?
The lights in the night sky. Skywatchers. We're watching. We're watching.
Did you see that?
Skywatcher
on Skywatcher Radio. SkywatcherRadio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Deborah Jane East for Skywatcher Radio, and I hope you're having a great week. It's been rainy here in Washington, and there's been a lot of stuff going on, and we've got a lot of good shows coming up in the future. But today I have a very special guest, and I'm so glad to be able to have him on my show because we scheduled before, and weird stuff happens with my audio equipment, with Skype, with all kinds of stuff. So I'm hoping that today will go really good. My guest, his name is Eric Cooper, and he is in a group called Forrest Moon Paranormal. And I've known Eric for several months, and I will say that his team, they're really wonderful. I've had experience with them, and they do a very important service. So even just last night on Facebook, someone was needing services related to this. So I'm so glad to be able to have him on my show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about his team, and then we'll get on with the interview. Forrest Moon Paranormal. They will investigate any aspect of the paranormal in the states of Washington, Oregon, or Idaho, or send local teams to your location upon request. They are interested in all aspects of entities like alien abduction, UFO sightings, cryptozoology, earth mysteries, and conspiracy theories. They enjoy hearing your opinions, your stories, and the one thing that I really like about this team is they have a lot of astral workers with different degrees, varying talents, and that is very helpful because sometimes if they can't go to a location, they can help you astrally. And this is very important because sometimes travel is not an option. There is a crisis going on and you need help. So I think that's a really great part of their team. They have Reiki healers. They have an intense understanding of UFOs. They even know about ghosts and have experience with ghosts. And a lot of people these days seem to be having problems with that. So I think that's great. Eric, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good now that we're actually going on with it.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know yesterday when we tried to record, I did the test. Everything worked fine. And when we tried to connect, it was weird. Just all of a sudden, my audio equipment went out. So that's how I know this must be going to be a really great interview.
You know it will.
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, Eric, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, your history, and things like that, and then we'll go more into your group.
Okay, my name's Eric Cooper. I was born here in Skagit Valley, Washington State. I was raised on a 40-acre beef farm in Big Lake, Washington. I went to private schools all my life. I was raised Christian. It was never my calling, I guess you could say. I joined the Army when I was 20. I was back in 89. I was in the Army for 19 and a half years. I was a combat medic, later a truck mechanic. I did 4 combat tours. I was in Desert Storm, Somalia, and 2 tours to Iraq. I ran pagan groups, because I'm a witch. I ran pagan groups in Iraq. That's actually how Forrest Moon got started. But we'll get into that. My first actual paranormal experience was when I was about, I think I was 15. I still can't explain it, but
so it took you by surprise then?
Oh yeah. Now prior to that, I might watch an occasional UFO show, but it was never my interest. I never got interested in aliens or UFOs until '94. And that was with a very unique experience with a friend of mine. But again, we'll get into that later. But as far as my background, I've got background in, when I was in the Army, I was in hazmat. I was a hazmat NCO or sergeant. I was a safety NCO, so I did OSHA inspection. Which it all comes into play in the paranormal, because when we actually go into a physical site, I do have background in electrical as far as the safety aspect. We look for the mundane before we look for the paranormal. But yeah, I have medical background, survival background. We also have a homesteading group that we run, teaching first aid and land navigation, things like that, which goes back to the military background. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell, essentially.
Well, let's talk about your first paranormal experience, because I think, whenever you have something happen to you for the first time, it really leaves a mark on you, and it's something that you never forget. Can you explain to everybody, about what happened?
Yeah. I had a knee dislocation. I was home alone. I was in a knee brace, so I couldn't run or nothing. And the neighbors called and said our cows were out in their pasture, which was normally not an issue, but the particular pasture they gotten into led to the highway, which, well, obviously that's an issue.
Yeah.
And so I had to walk through the pasture or through our field, which is real rough. Probably about half a mile just to get to the back pasture they were in. My particular cow, I had very unique cows. My particular cow was like a big dog. She'd follow me around even when I was 6 and 7 and out in the woods. My cows had followed me around, and I'd stop and play, and they would stop and they'd just graze and watch over me. It's kind of cool.
Well, it is. I will say, I had a son who did the same thing. He raised a cow, and I would see him out in the front yard headbutting. So that's really cool. I like that. I like someone who's good with animals.
Mm-hmm. Well, she never got out. And again, she wasn't out. She was still in our pasture, standing at the fence, trying to get the other cows back in.
Wow.
It obviously wasn't working, but I got down there and I saw where they'd come through. I walked into the other pasture, and it was weird because they all stopped and they looked at me. And there's like, let's see, I'm trying to remember. I think there were 7 cows. We had 8 cows total. My cow wasn't out, but we had 7 cows that were out. And they all looked at me, and they looked right at the hole in the fence where the highway was, and they started running towards it. And I don't know what was there, but something scared the hell out of them because they all slid to a stop and turned around and ran. I mean, like I said, it was a good half mile, but they ran right back through the fence and didn't stop till they got to our barn. There was no high grass. I could see clearly everything that was in front of them. There was no skunks, nothing that would spook them. It spooked me because I was like, what the hell did they see?
Exactly.
So I turned around and, couldn't run. No, I hobbled back to the barn.
That was a bad way to be in, wasn't it? You couldn't run.
No. But I didn't get a creepy feeling. Nothing really scared me. I was just more of a, what the hell?
Yeah.
That was weird. And my cow stayed, and she walked back with me. But that was my first, and like I said, I'd watch the occasional, but this is back in the 70s, I think.
Well, animals are very perceptive, and, I find out sometimes that they are aware of things that we as humans don't recognize.
Oh, very much so. And that's we have a preliminary questionnaire that we have clients fill out. Again, I just want to say all of our services are free of charge. We do not charge anything because the paranormal is so, what's the word? The paranormal is
it's unique.
Unpredictable.
Well, that's true too.
It's so unpredictable. I don't see anyone charging, because how can you guarantee that you might, clear one house, but you can't guarantee something's not going to come back?
Well, you're right.
So, how are you going to charge the service If I pay for a service, I expect it to be fixed. I'm not going to charge you for something I can't guarantee is going to be fixed, because I can clear one, and say your kid's a medium and doesn't know yet, for example, you're going to have a whole slew of more stuff coming back. Also, the property that your house is built on, you can't. There is no surety with the paranormal.
Well, that's a good way to put it, because, there's just so many different things people could have to deal with when you say paranormal, like ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, humanoids, experiencing, all those types of things, psychic attacks.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of different things, that could happen to people.
Right.
What would you say is the most frequent service that that people request from Forrest Moon Paranormal?
House clearings.
House clearing.
Yeah.
And how do you go about? Okay, let's pretend that I'm calling you and I'm saying, hey, my doors are opening and closing, and I hear strange, weird sounds, and I have smells. What would your team do?
Well, first of all, I'll have you fill out the questionnaire. It's very, very extensive. I'll look at it, kind of do an evaluation of what I feel it might be, and I'll pass it off to Tony. Tony LaCroix is my team lead when it comes to the haunting, the entity side of it. He's also our astral team leader. He'll get his team together, and they'll astrally go, which I need to clarify, we don't just cover. We cover, honestly, we cover globally, because we actually had a case in Africa a couple nights ago.
Wow, cool.
And so a physical inspection, we'll cover Washington, and if we have the gas, I'll go to Idaho or Oregon. But yeah, no, we're actually when it comes to the astral, we do global clearings. And as you know, if you need psychic protection, we do protective detail essentially as well.
And I will say that this is no joke. When you contact Eric and his team, they really work hard to do what they say they're going to do. And recently I had to use his service, and it worked. It worked. So this is real. This is not a joke. It's not a game. This is something real. And I will say this, for anybody in the world to be able to contact you or your group and to have you take the time and the attention to help these people, it's wonderful. You do it for free. And, that tells me this is something that means a lot to you.
Oh, yeah. Hands down. Now, a lot of people don't understand what astral is, and I'm going to explain that. Astral is, I guess, if you're into conspiracy and some of the government background, the closest I can explain it would be back when the Army and the CIA were doing remote viewing. It's very similar to remote viewing, but we don't need a navigation point because we use people's energy to find them. Astral is like another dimension. The astral is where you find fairies. It's where you'll find dragons. You will find many of what people call mythical creatures that aren't really mythical. They're actually here. So our team will basically leave their body and go astral, which all they need is a picture or to talk to you on the phone, and they can trace your energy to you. When it comes to psychic attack, it's very simple. They'll find the energy trace of the person that's attacking you, cut the energy line so that person can't find you again, and then do a protective shield around you.
That is way too cool. That is way too cool. And, in these days when people, when they hear about this stuff, they say, well, that, things like that are not real. They don't exist. Well, I will tell you, it is real and it does exist. And the people that contact you, are you sort of like, there's no place for them to go. You don't look in the phone book and find, paranormal things. So that's really great. Do you get referrals from people, or do you mainly, do you advertise your group a lot on Facebook, right?
Yeah, we're all over Facebook. We're also listed in the paranormal. Oh God, what's her name? It's a listing of paranormal groups. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Uh-huh.
But, that's good, because being able to find you is a very important thing. Tell us a little bit about your team members. I mentioned a little bit that they all have different varying degrees of talent. Can you tell us a little bit about your team and some of their experience?
I'm not going to go into their experience. That'll be maybe if you want to do another show with some of the team members, that'd be cool.
Oh, great.
I've got Tony. Like I said, he's our team lead. And I will say, I'm a disabled veteran. A lot of our group are also either prior military or veterans as well. A couple of them, I think, in the group, because we're 2,000 members in the group, but when it comes to the actual team, we're small. But some of them are active military still. So we actually take this on a military front. Being military, a lot of us aren't scared. It takes a whole lot to scare us. So we don't get scared of shit.
I respect that. I really respect that, because there's some scary ass stuff out there.
Oh yeah. Tony is prior military. He's prior infantry. Let's see. He's also a Reiki healer. We do have another Reiki healer on the team. If the client is hurt, or if one of our team members gets hurt, they can do a Reiki healing on them. I also have a demonologist out of Seattle. I call in for referrals. I have 2 mediums on the local team that I bring in as far as physical investigations. I have mediums that come in with me. Like I said, I'm a witch, so a lot of our we are a pagan group, but we are open to all religions. When it comes to the clients, we try to use their religion, like call in a Catholic priest, whatever their religion is. We try to respect that.
Do you find that people really don't understand, when you tell them that you're a witch or that you're pagan, do they understand exactly what that means, or are they still going, back in the old days, when you said witch, people, well, you know what they did? They burned people at the stake. They did all kinds of horrible things. But in this modern day and time, it's totally something different.
I think it's more open, but a lot of what they understand, they get from TV. I hate the media. The perceptions the media brings on, especially some of the news that are completely conservative and hate anyone that's not Christian. We do get a lot of that. We do live in a very conservative community, but I think it's opening up a little bit because Forrest Moon is here now, and they all know we're here, but we don't get any kind of discrimination up here.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. And I think that's important, because in order for the community and people, that need help, they need to be able to, they got to get to know you. They got to be accepting that you are doing a service that really helps a lot of people. So I'm glad to hear that part.
Well, it's even funny because I'm friends with the mayor of our town, and he is very, very much Christian. But he's also the editor of the newspaper. He runs the newspaper here. And he's going to feature us with a couple of other witches in the Concrete Herald for October. Naturally October, because it's the witches month. But
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. Well, I want to be sure that if you can copy that or somehow send that to me, I would love to have that. I'll put it up on our Skywatcher site.
Okay.
Well, that's really good.
Oh.
Can you tell me a little bit about? Let's talk about ghost house clearing. What is the most real evidence that you have encountered about ghosts?
As far as evidence, what to look for, I think our most common is hearing footsteps, doors closing, doors opening, cold spots. All of a sudden it gets cold. I think that's what you're asking.
Yes, yes.
You've got people that get touched while they're sleeping, voices, kids laughing, anything of that nature. Now there's a lot of similarity with alien abduction. I think I'm trying to correlate thoughts here. That's part of my problem.
Well, you mentioned alien abduction. Okay. What do you think about that? Do you have a lot of people that have been abducted? Did they contact Forrest Moon Paranormal with wanting a service?
I've only had a couple. Because I mean, as far as a service, there's not much we can do to help you with alien abduction. I've not encountered anybody that can stop an abduction. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that because I like I said, I've never encountered anybody that's actually successfully stopped an abduction. At one point, I was sleeping and a friend of mine left her body and successfully stopped an abduction at one point. But I don't know what to believe with that because, well, she turned out crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, abduction is, I found out in doing, research for my radio show and talking to, gosh, I don't know how many abductees that I've spoken with. And I'm also working with the Free organization, which is an online open air university to help people that have been abducted, doing surveys and offering services. There is so much that a person endures after they have been abducted, and it's things like that really take away a lot of their life from them.
Right.
So, it's really terrible. And like you said, there's not much anybody can do because usually the person is paralyzed. It happens, in their sleep. And
no. Getting on that real quick. The thing I look at when someone says something's going on is I look at sleep paralysis.
Yes.
Now, if you're paralyzed, you're also getting nosebleeds, scoop marks in the legs and arms. Sometimes there's puncture wounds that are visible. I have a camera with if you could hear the duck in the background.
I like that. I used to raise ducks. That's pretty cool.
No, I have a camera that with a screen I can see the barn because we have 2 does that are due any day. But anyway, we're losing track. There's a series of signs and symptoms I look for along with before I rule out whether it's sleep paralysis or not. Again, getting back to my question there, we do ask extensive medical, because we're not doctors. But
right.
I always ask someone if they've seen a doctor about it, if they've seen a psychiatrist about it, if they're on medication, things like that, before we rule out whether it's paranormal or not. But yeah, dreams are a big one too, because a lot of times the mind masking the aliens do isn't always 100%. If you have dreams of aliens, their masking didn't work.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that before, but that makes sense.
Because they're very good, especially the Greys, are very good at masking, basically blanking your mind so you don't remember the abduction. But a lot of it comes through with dreams because they haven't mastered that. Well, who knows if they've mastered it by now or not? But
Yeah, well, that's very helpful to me because I've had several people tell me, well, I dream about spaceships all the time and looking up in the sky and seeing UFOs and the sense that someone's in my room and all this different kinds of stuff related to UFOs and aliens, and that's not really a normal thing that most people dream about.
no, not at all. And with with sleep paralysis, you also do get visions. You get the sense that someone's near you. You get maybe a shadow even. That can't happen with sleep paralysis, which is why I'm very careful as far as ruling out whether it's sleep paralysis or an actual abduction. But if they have the other signs and symptoms, then obviously, yeah. Also, a lot of times UFO sighting came along with it.
Yeah, so all of things just, add up to, give you a clue, to what's going on. So I can tell that you're you really do investigate a lot of details and about, the events that are going on, so you can put together the whole picture. And really, that's what you have to do.
Well, we have a case in Florida that happened about a month ago, and I actually did contact the MUFON director to get the Florida team from MUFON into that, because she actually had a landing site. And oh God, I love more than anything to go to Florida, but yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen. Because with landing sites, one, there would be radiation traces. A lot of times with landing sites, the grass and the plantation doesn't grow there anymore. Again, because of the radiation. It's the same thing with crop circles. Crop circles, back years ago when those English guys came out and said they did it, yeah, bullshit. Because a true crop circle, the actual stalks of whatever the crop was, I'll use corn for an example, but the actual corn stalks were intertwined. And the cellular structure of the stalks was altered. That's how you can tell the difference between a true and a hoaxed crop circle. Because I'm sorry, but a couple English blokes with boards that were stomping down the corn, yeah, they wouldn't be able to intertwine the stalks. That'd take hours.
No.
And when there's like 5 or 6 different crop circles in one night, yeah, okay.
I mean, some of the designs of the crop circles are so intricate. You think there is no way anybody could, manufacture by boards or whatever means to design something like this. So it's really a unique thing.
Now, Forrest Moon headquarters, the actual Forrest Moon group, because Forrest Moon Paranormal is simply one aspect of Forrest Moon that we do, but it's the biggest one. Forrest Moon is actually 10 years old this month.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. We've had our ups and downs. We've had we've had a rocky road, but I think every good organization does. I'm going to say this real quick. The only other astral group that I know of is Abron Zell's Gray School. Actually, Abron Zell has another paranormal aspect of his Church of All Worlds that does the same thing we do. I'm trying to remember what the name of.
Well, I knew there weren't very many because actually yours is the only one that I've encountered on Facebook or any of the social sites. Your group is the only one that I really see.
His is a lot more secretive, I guess you could say, harder to find. And they actually set up more for the magical community. They set up more to protect the magical community from outside attacks.
Okay, well, now let's talk about my favorite part of your work, Eric. And I've spoken to you about this before, and it was just really so cool. Let's talk about when you first witnessed a UFO, because you really have a great memory. First of all, you remembered a lot of details and everything. So let's go into that and talk about the first time you ever encountered seeing a UFO.
Oh God, yeah, I was stationed in Germany, and we were doing one of my soldiers got in trouble, and we had to transport him to a prison in Mannheim, Germany. It was about midnight. We were coming back down the Autobahn, coming back to our base, and I looked over, and we're coming into Kitzingen, because we're stationed in Kitzingen, I think. Yeah, we were stationed in Kitzingen. And I looked over and I saw this giant, it looked like a basketball, but it was as big as the moon. But I could see the moon on my right side. This orb was off on my left. So the moon's off on the right side of the Autobahn, and this orb is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this orb is on the left side of the Autobahn. And I watched it for a good 5 minutes, and it's like midnight, so it's pitch black. And after about 5 minutes, it was just like someone flipped the light switch off. It was gone. Now, going back in history, where we were wasn't far from Nuremberg. And if you've heard or looked at your ufology history, you'll hear there were a lot of famous sightings in Nuremberg of UFOs. I'm thinking it was 1800s actually. Maybe not that far back. Yeah, I think it was 1800s that they actually had lights in the sky over Nuremberg.
Wow.
But that was my first one, and that kind of opened my eyes. I was already actually studying alien abduction and UFOs, because I've been studying abduction and UFOs intensively since 1994. But that was my first UFO sighting. That was kind of... Did
it change you? I mean, after you saw that...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you knew that it was real,
oh, yeah.
didn't you?
My next one, I was on the porch, or the patio of my military housing, and this is just a few months later. But I was watching these stars in the sky, and I could see them moving. So I figured I'd try an experiment, and I got a flashlight, and I flashed the flashlight at it, and it shot down towards me, to about airplane distance. What you'd see, from the lights of an airplane, and it hovered there for a minute, and then it shot back up into the sky.
Definitely not a maneuver that an airplane could do or anything like that.
Not at all. In fact, it went from, star distance to airplane distance.
Wow.
If that makes sense. And then back up to star distance. So, yeah. And then we had German friends that came knocking on our door, freaked out, because they saw aliens. And, yeah. and I kind of blew it off because I thought he was just drunk. But but even sober, he still was terrified from that moment on. So I know he encountered something.
Yeah. Well, it leaves a lasting effect on you, and I've never really talked with anybody that had an experience, with being abducted or seeing a UFO that didn't have an anxiety or, just really sort of,
His case left an impression on me, though, because he described it as the Michelin Man.
The Michelin Man.
And I have actually heard of cases of people describing the alien encounter they had of looking like the Michelin Man, which leads me to believe there is a species that you don't hear a whole lot about, but maybe resembles the Michelin Man. I mean, I don't know.
Well, do you believe... Well, I should say this. I believe that sometimes when there's abductions that they implant screen memories, in your head, because I spoke with a friend of mine who wrote a book about her abductions, and she said the first time that she encountered a gray is that she would look, but she could not see the face clearly. It was like blurred. And she said afterwards she figured that maybe they thought their appearance would frighten her, but she felt like that they definitely gave her different screen memories in her mind of what happened, for whatever reason.
Right. Now with screen memories, I will say this: if you encounter people or kids that are terrified of owls or deer, or or rabbits, those are the three animals that have the biggest eyes.
Yes.
And a lot of times, the screen memories will be the aliens will come to you as deer or rabbits or even owls, because there's been people where there were owls outside their window. What turns out it was an alien abduction.
Yes, I've heard that before. It's it's owls more than any other, but yeah, it's really strange.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that makes sense. They do have large eyes. They have large eyes, and everybody knows that the Greys have huge almond-shaped eyes.
And for some reason, they can mask your memory, but they can't mask the size of their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought about that. That's right. They can't for, whatever reason. But, if someone has, an experience like that, it really does change the rest of their life, because it's something that's always stays with you in the back of your mind.
Now, for any listeners that are this just sparked an interest, if you're interested in alien abduction, I'm going to say that the first book I read was by Dr. David Jacobs, and it's called Secret Life, and it goes into everything I learned in the beginning, answered all my questions in one book. And
oh, that's great. Gosh, I'd like to read that myself. And it's called
Secret Life.
Secret Life by Dr. David Jacobs.
Yep. Awesome guy. He was a professor. I can't remember at what university, but he was a university professor in history, and focused more attention on alien abductees. This is back in the 90s, when the hybrid program first kind of started coming out. Back in the 50s, Eisenhower made a contract at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with the Greys. And you'll never find documentation of this, but I take a lot of conspiracy with a grain of salt. And the more I hear the same conspiracy, it's not conspiracy once it's proven. But once I start getting more pieces to that puzzle that kind of fit, then I'll take it a little more realistic. I've heard enough about Eisenhower and his contract with the Greys that I don't think it's conspiracy, it's fact.
Do you want to explain to our listeners of what that treaty actually was? What were the specifications? In general, on that treaty.
I'm thinking. He made a contract with the Greys that they could abduct a certain number of humans in America. I don't think he spoke globally, but in America, in exchange for technology. Well, if you look at, it's amazing looking at technology, how fast it spiked.
Oh, yes.
Back when I was a kid, you were lucky to have a computer.
Oh, very.
My first computer in the 80s was a Commodore 64.
Oh, no. Me too.
Boy,
it's a monstrosity, when you think about that and what we have now.
Yeah. We went from, within 20 years, we've got cell phones that are as big as your wallet. Or we have internet. We have fiber optics came from the Greys. The cell phone came from the Greys.
We have holograms. Did you see the release that Microsoft did about their new hologram technology that we're going to be able to access? This technology, you could actually walk around in this hologram and reach down and look at rocks, and they could actually project you into, say, like the moon or different places. I mean, it was really incredible. I just can't believe that they've had this technology, and that has to have come from aliens.
Yeah,
it has to.
To me, that's creepy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's just creepy. But yeah, the Greys essentially they needed. I don't know why they're abducting us now, because they got what they've needed. Back then, they were a sterile race. They needed our DNA to procreate and to make a hybrid. That's why it's called the hybridization program. And a lot of the abductees, you'll see, they were impregnated. They carried the baby, I believe it was for 2 weeks, and then they were re-abducted, and the fetus was taken out and put in the alien nursery on their ship. It sounds far-fetched, but it's not.
Well, this is exactly what I've heard, Eric. This is exactly what I've heard.
You'll read about it, all of it in more detail in that book. But I have encountered abductees that have described the same thing without reading that book. These are people that didn't even believe in aliens, that had no idea what was going on. And yeah, over the years of encountering abductees, and knowing some personally, yeah.
Well, you know, just this aspect alone is what really confuses me, because there are a lot of groups out there, you know, the starseed groups, and, you know, the aliens are space brothers, and they're going to help humanity and do all this. But, you know, what is right about being, you know, there are people who are abducted. They have forced examinations. Women have their eggs removed. Men have, you know, they are experimented on. They have all kinds of invasive things, you know, done to them. And how could that be right? How could you say that is something friendly? Because if a human being broke into your house and did those things to either a man or a woman, they'd be in jail.
Oh, they'd be shot.
So,
no, if they came here, they'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really.
I think the best, I'll say too, I think Travis Walton's Fire in the Sky shows it best. And then you've got, what was the name of her movie? Fourth Kind?
Yes.
Yeah, Fourth Kind was an awesome movie too, because
Oh, I love that movie. It was really creepy, and I'm not creeped out easily.
No, it hits the nail on the head, 'cause that's exactly what happens. They did their homework. They actually got abductees, or they did their homework for that movie. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yes, and I highly recommend that, and I do believe it might be on YouTube. But these kinds of actions that, gosh, I'd say probably, I don't know what the percentage, but a high amount, 80% of the women who are abducted, that is what they do. They are either, and I hear about men too saying that they had a female hybrid, you know, came in and they had sex.
Yeah, forced to have sex. In some cases, they had semen removed.
Yes. Yes, and those kinds of things, I tell you, is that who you want to call your space brother? I don't think so.
I'm kind of mixed on that, because I think of all species, the ones that are the most in our corner are the Greys.
Why do you think that?
Well, because you've got the reptilians. Now, the reptilians I've encountered twice.
Oh gosh, I got to hear about that, please. Tell me about the reptilians, because I guess of all the different extraterrestrial species, the reptilians are the ones that frighten me the most.
Well, I hate them. I despise them sons of bitches, and they hate me too, apparently. But I was stationed at in Atlanta, Georgia, at Fort McPherson, and I can't remember. I can't remember how I knew it was a reptilian, but I knew it was. 'Cause I don't think I'd ever even heard of them until then. But I was outside my apartment, and there was just I had a shrill, electronic sounding, piercing tone hit my head, inside my head, and I got an instant headache and nausea. And I looked down, and there are these little praying. This is one sign that there's there's a number of signs you need to have to know if there's a reptilian present. Just a praying mantis isn't one of them, but it is one of the signs. But there were praying mantises, which I'd never seen before, sitting outside my apartment. And reptilians they can cloak and they can shapeshift. You will never know that they're. One sign of them is, I'm trying to think how to describe it, but it's a stench of they can't get rid of it, but there's a stench they give off that smells like a combination of death, garbage, and sewer. You can't put words on this smell, and you'll just get this feeling of impending doom.
Oh, wow.
But I guess.
So what happened then? What happened then after?
Well, they psychically attacked me for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden there was this another noise, like they were being attacked, and they were gone. That was my first encounter with them. And then, of course, I started researching and found out the name of them. But then back in 1997, I thought it was '07, but no, it was '97. No, it would have been '93, '94. I was at Fort Lewis. I'm trying to get my timetable straight here, but yeah, I was at Fort Lewis, and I encountered them again outside a shopette that we were at. We were about to get in our van, and I got the same impending doom feeling, the same smell, and the van wouldn't start. And it never ran after that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's just, yeah, those are my two encounters, and they're up here where we're living. They're up on a mountain right above us. They have a base up there.
Oh, gosh.
Well, they won't come down.
Oh, gosh.
I've already been told they won't come down here.
And people really, if you don't know what a reptilian is, let's describe their appearance. They're very tall. I've heard them described, some of them, as 6 or 7 foot tall. They're very stocky.
Yeah, very stocky. Look very, how would you describe them?
Well, they describe them sometimes as looking like a dinosaur, lizard-like, I guess, or...
Chameleon.
Chameleon,
there we
yes.
go. That's the word I was looking for. But you won't see them in physical form. If you do,
and they're very smart too. They have high IQs, right?
Oh yeah. They'll know you're coming before you even get there. They're very psychic, and they have very, very high technology. You don't want to deal with them.
Well, people laugh about the reptilians, but the bad thing about them is what they have for supper every night. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, they're flesh eaters.
Flesh eaters.
Yeah, they're flesh eaters. They eat humans.
That's just about as plain as you can get. They eat humans, so I really don't want one as a neighbor.
No. Well, they live mostly in the mountain areas. They don't like humans. They despise humans, so they won't live around you. if you want more information, keyword Philip Schneider. Look for the Philip Schneider lectures. He was actually involved in the Dulce Wars. They had an underground base in Dulce, New Mexico. They were working with humans on technology. They are enemies of the gray. They're the reason the grays are sterile. And, yeah, back in the 80s, Delta Force and a couple other black ops government types had a war with the reptilians, and everybody but I believe 3 were killed. Humans.
Oh wow.
And Philip Schneider was one of them. And he came out publicly and started talking about everything he'd experienced in the government, and was killed in his apartment. So look for the Philip Schneider. You can find him on YouTube, the Philip Schneider lectures. And some of the stuff he went through will open your eyes and astound you.
And it's amazing. You know, a lot of people, you know, they haven't, you know, reptilians are something that you don't really, you know, commonly know about. But once you get on the net and do research, you find out there is a lot of information about reptilians. And I think the thing that's so disturbing for me is that our government works with reptilians.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for Derek to come up here in May and hear what he's got to say, because I haven't heard much of his story.
Yeah, Derek Tyler, you know, he has a book that's coming out. He knows a lot about reptilians. And, you know, the most important thing, I believe, is that, well, you know, we don't have, our government has never come out and said, yes, aliens exist, we're working with them, we're doing this. They haven't come out and told us that any of that stuff is real. They still deny Roswell. They deny, you know, evidence that's really irrefutable. You know, we have pictures, we have video, we've had testimony from Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Paul Hellyer, the former Minister of Defense of Great Britain. We have a lot of other countries saying, yes, they are real, but our government has not disclosed to us. And I think it would be very important for, you know, humanity to know that there is a race out there that is basically using us for food.
Yeah. Another awesome author is Linda Moulton Howe. She goes into a lot of the alien types, if I remember right, and a lot of the more bizarre cases in her books.
She's very good. I met her at a conference, and she's very knowledgeable, and she has also done a lot of documentaries, and so she really is a good resource.
Yeah, she originally, if I remember right, before she got into the paranormal fields, she did a documentary on cattle mutilations. That's what first sparked her interest, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, that was back in the 90s again, I think.
Yes, I believe so. I believe it was.
But look for her book, Alien Harvest, and it's nothing but animal mutilation cases. And she's got a 2-book series. I can't remember the name. I'm trying to see my library, but I can't. That are very intense and very knowledgeable.
And it's very important. Yeah, there's a lot of good researchers out there that really, you know, writing a book, you know, like that, you have to do extensive research and get documentation. So I really, my hat goes off to these researchers that use their time to research this stuff and to give us, you know, correct information, because there's always disinformation out there. Yeah. But the people that are serious, like Linda and James Bartley and many others, you know, they really do a good job at getting, you know, the right information and stuff for us to digest.
Yeah. Real quick, we do have an astral team training. The prerequisite for joining our astral team, though, you must know how to astrally travel already. So that does limit a lot of people. I am looking for researchers, so if you're knowledgeable on cryptozoology or anything like that, we could always use you. But our next astral team training is going to be in about the middle of March. We're getting psyched up for that now.
That's great. You have your team, I tell you what, you really do cover a lot of areas. I mean, a lot of different things. So I really appreciate your service and that you do this. You and your team, you work hard. You do a great job. You don't charge a penny. You really care about these people that are going through this stuff, and there's nowhere else really that they can get help. So I think that Forrest Moon does a very good work, and I'm so appreciative of what you guys do. How can people get in touch with you?
I can be reached directly through email. Medicine Eagle, it's MEDICYNE_Eagle @yahoo.com, or just go on Facebook and look for Forrest Moon Paranormal. Make sure you go to the group, not the page, because I can't even access my own page because Facebook deleted my account last year.
Oh gosh.
And yeah, and I had 5,000 plus friends within my network on that one, and so I had to start all over again.
Wow. That's how you know that you're onto something, when Facebook does things like that.
Well, that can go one of two ways. I have a hunch it was because I'm pagan, and it was a conservative group that we got into it, and I think they reported me on Facebook because they didn't like the fact I was pagan. But again, you can't prove it. So.
Well, you've really, you've overcome a lot of difficulties, in doing all this stuff, and you certainly are persistent with making sure you have a good team and that you offer a good service to people. And I will say your knowledge is really extensive, and I can tell, you've really done your homework.
You have to.
And the part I like about you, Eric, is I love the part about the homesteading, and you have all these animals, and you embrace the earth, and you're all involved with doing things in a good way. You're living off the earth, and I'm sure you plant gardens and you harvest and all this stuff, and not many people do that kind of stuff these days. I was raised up doing that. So when you were talking about your goats and all this kind of stuff, I thought, yeah, that's up my alley because I did that.
Well, I think a lot more people are starting to try to do apartment gardens and, get a little more into it because the government's unstable. The society in general is unstable. So you kind of have to look out for yourself.
Well, you do. And I think in this day and time, we need, if something happened and we did not have access to our money, in the bank, and, some kind of crisis happened, we wouldn't have money to buy food. A lot of people, they don't have anything stored up. They don't have anything for emergencies. And I think, we should be prepared if something happens, and planting gardens and having those resources will be the key to our survival for a lot of us.
Very, very much so. And that's why we have our homesteading group as well, because, we have beekeepers, we have, we have an extensive, and if you want to look at that, again, on Facebook, go on, look for the Skagit Homesteaders, and you'll find our group. And we have a huge, huge library, and we have people that post daily links to self-sustaining environmental stuff. So, yeah, you can find that again on Facebook.
Well, I certainly hope if there's people out there listening, I hope if you have a problem or an issue with any of the topics that we discussed, that you'll contact Eric, because I know he will do the best job for you that he can do. Oh, Eric, thank you so much for being patient, and we're finally got this show done. So I'm very happy, and I hope that in the future that you can come back on the show and update us what's going on with, Forrest Moon Paranormal. Thank you so, so very much, and I will post all of your links on my Skywatcher Radio Show Facebook page. And if people want to get in touch with you, and I've already got a couple of referrals for you that I'll do after the show. But thank you so very much for being my guest on Skywatcher Radio.
Well, thank you for having me. Also, real quick, I'm on Twitter. I don't go on there very much, but I am on Twitter at Warfighter of Washington. It's actually just Warfighter of Wa. So you can look for me there as well.
And I will be sure to put that on there on our Facebook page as well, because a lot of people use different things. A lot of people just they like Twitter because it's short and it's quick, and some people use Facebook or Google Plus or whatever, but it's important to try to be involved in all different kinds of media so that people can reach you.
And I don't like it because I'm not technical savvy so much.
Me either.
My 4-year-old is actually almost up with me already. I mean, she gets on the cell phone and she's just sitting there flipping the pages and yeah.
I know. I had to get my grandchildren to show me how to use something on my phone one time. So.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, but I want her to be that way. I want both my kids to be that way because they're the next generation and their technology is just going to blow our minds.
You're exactly right. Eric, I want to thank you for your service to our country, for all the good work that you're doing, and I wish your group the best, and I look forward to having you on the show again.
Anytime.
All right, that's our show for Skywatcher Radio. This is your host, Deborah Jane East, wishing you all a great afternoon, and tune in next week for another show. Take care, everyone.